Here's my new buddy. Hi, little cray. This is a male Mexican dwarf crayfish. Isn't he cute? Oh, he's so tiny. And this is a female Mexican dwarf crayfish. And wouldn't you know it, she's already got eggs under her swimmerettes. Actually, I got even luckier than just that. When I went to the Petco, I asked for them to special order these guys for me because I wanted to start breeding them. They seemed fun. So I said, are you able to get a male and female set? They said, we're not sure. We'll just have to order a bunch of them and see. Wouldn't you know, I got a few of them. Well, just two of them. And they're really easy to determine the sex. And for the girl, it was very easy because something very rare happened. We found a female crayfish with eggs already on her at the store, ready to go. I could have just bought her and then let her hatch her eggs. And then I would have had babies, but I thought, you know what? I think she needs someone to keep her company. And no, not the autosinkless catfish that is swimming around back there, keeping algae clean. I decided, you know what? A male and a female combo. They get along. They do pretty good. Now, Mama Cray definitely has her home pretty well established here. She likes that center under there. I mean, disregard the fact that there's 3 tubes right there for you. But you still want to dig underneath the sand. But, you know, whatever makes you happier, Mama Cray. Because I want her to have her babies. And then we'll have a bunch of little crays swimming around. The best part is, that's about as big as they get. If I compare that to the size of my neon yellow dwarf shrimp, they're only a little bigger than the shrimp. That's perfect. Now, that being said, this is a 10-gallon tank, and these are crayfish. When they have the babies, this tank will be a bit overstocked. So, if we look over at what used to, and keyword used to, be my tank that I used for breeding blue Moscow guppies, you'll notice there's no guppies anymore. There are still fish in here, though, like, for instance, Peaches, my bushy-nosed pleco, and Peter, my other bushy-nosed pleco, and also little Poof. Can't forget little Poof, my little poofler fish. Oh, she's such a good girl. She swims around and takes care of all these nuisance snails. And you know what? She does a darn good job at it. She's a great little fishy. But, what's that under there? It's another crayfish! Yes. And I know it's hard to make out, and I'll explain this in a minute. But yes, there is a white specter crayfish in there, and, okay, a white crayfish on white sand was not one of my better ideas. But there's a very special reason why I got her, and it was a hard decision because I planned on, once I have a big population, of moving those dwarf crays into the 40-gallon and letting them do their thing. Although I have some concerns about Poof and possible eating on baby crays of that size. That being said, I was offered a special little girl that they were holding in the back for me, well, behind the tanks and stuff, because they knew I was coming in, and I happened to talk a lot to the guy who works in the fish area of the Petco that I go to, and it's a magnet store, so they can special order everything. Now, because of that, they said, hey, take a look at this. And they showed me a white specter crayfish, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. But, what's even rarer, well, what's unusual about this, I should say, is that this white specter crayfish is a female. It is nearly impossible to find female crayfish in the Petco. Their distributors do not send out females. They keep the females for breeding purposes. But what's even more crazy than that, and I don't think I'm going to get a good picture of it right here, and yeah, she's a little feisty, but the plecos, if they really were in pain or really annoyed, they wouldn't be sitting there by the cray. What's crazy is she has eggs all under her swimmerettes. It's crazy. There's so many of them. Like, her entire tail is filled with almost 100 eggs. And I bet I could probably, if I lift this up here, get a good glimpse. Let me just dry my hand so I can zoom in. Holy crayfish. Look at all the eggs. There are so many of them. On top of finding a female crayfish at a Petco, which is nearly impossible, but finding one that is already fully buried. Look at all of those. Those are those are going to be little baby crays. To find one that has berries already on her, it's insanely rare. And I'm talking about finding them at a pet store. So when I saw her, I thought to myself, well, holy return on investment, Batman. If I got her, she's about $20, and let her babies hatch and get to a decent size, I could very well breed white specter crayfish. At least have one generation. I know I just said that at least 3 times. Now that's 4. And I would have way more money than the $20 that I spent to get her. She's doing good. Now you might be thinking, hey, a crayfish with bottom feeder fish like plecos and a little tiny puffer, is that really a good idea? Well, in most cases, no. However, I take into consideration the personality each one of my creatures has. Now, this little girl, her name's Casper. That's what I call her. She's a white specter cray. She keeps to herself. She doesn't attack or antagonize the other fish. Yes, what you saw earlier was her poking Peter. But Peter really wasn't fazed by it. Peter was just like, hey, move, mine. And she's kind of like, hey, I want this too. But they often trade places, and the tank is big enough for these creatures right now. They get along. There's no fin damage, there's no attacking or antagonizing going on. As far as things go, Casper here is a very gentle crayfish, which it's like the trifecta, a female, fully buried, and gentle. What more could you possibly ask of a crayfish? Now, yes, most crayfish are aggressive, and I wouldn't really suggest putting them in with this particular stock, but one thing to take into consideration is I do actually have a lot of experience training crayfish. If you look at my previous videos, you'll see that I train crayfish to walk across my hands, to become docile. They're essentially going to become like little aquatic hamsters. I personally feed them, and I personally play with them. I take them out of the tank, let them walk around the house for a little bit, and yes, they can survive out of water so long as their gills are wet. They are A-OK. So it's not that unusual. And what this does is it makes their attitude so much better. They're much more docile in the end. And I know this because Senor Cray right here is a huge crayfish from the wild. He's a rusty cray. He's part of my wild fish tank. And I have been training wild crays for a while now, for over a year, to just not attack anything. They get along with everyone really well. And I'm pretty confident if I could teach a wild batshit insane crayfish like a rusty, which are responsible for decimating over 30 native species of crayfish in Illinois, to be friendly and playful with humans and be docile towards other inhabitants, I'm pretty sure I can get Casper here, a tank-raised crayfish, to play nice. It is going to take a while, though, because she's fully buried. Right now, I'm more concerned about her having a safe place to be so her eggs can hatch. But once the eggs have hatched, I'm going to make sure that she gets trained. And for the record, yes, they do often get along. Now, when she's kind of just tired of dealing with them, she'll just crawl over here. Or she'll crawl over here. She moves around. She's a good cray. She's still mildly aggressive, but not nearly aggressive enough to the point where I genuinely gotta be concerned about the safety and well-being of the plecos. But she's a spunky cray. It's just the fact that she blends in with the sand that makes her hard to find from time to time. But yes, how lucky can one guy get? Fully buried female white specter crayfish, $20 at Petco. Fully buried female Mexican dwarf crayfish, as well as a male. Another $22 at Petco. Dang, that is a good haul, good day.